What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review, and I'm here to talk about Picard Season 1. That's right, Star Trek Picard Season 1 premiered this morning, early this morning, and I was able to catch it. Actually, I stayed up until 12:01 last night to watch it because I had read that it premieres at 12:01, but I did not pay very close attention to detail because I did not see that it was Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Mountain Time. And so I stayed up to 12:01 and I was like, why isn't it on? And then I found out, nope, it actually 3:01 my time. So unfortunately, I did not get to catch it at midnight. So I went to bed and then I caught it this morning. So I've been really excited about Star Trek Picard. Star Trek Picard or Star Trek: The Next Generation is my Star Trek. I've talked about this before. Star Trek: The Next Generation is my Star Trek. I grew up watching it in its original run. Me and my mom is a big Trekkie. We would sit down and we would watch this every week when it was on. It was family time. It was family time. And I've got such great memories of Star Trek: The Next Generation, best of both worlds. You know, even the movies, Generations, First Contact, even Insurrection was fun. Insurrection was like this fun extended episode. Nemesis wasn't that great, but to be honest with you, I think that there's a lot of redeeming stuff in Nemesis as well. So, and this one obviously, Star Trek Picard obviously picks up on a lot of the story threads that were started in Nemesis. So, what did I think of it? I loved it. 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 I'm so happy to give a positive report on this because I adored episode 1. Just loved it unabashedly. So now you know, CBS All Access has been doing a lot of Star Trek lately. They've done 2 seasons of Discovery, and Discovery's been okay. I haven't been over the moon for Discovery, but I've enjoyed it. I have. I think season 1 was a lot better than season 2. But again, I have enjoyed it. But I haven't been over the moon for it. I'm over the moon for Picard, episode 1. So far, so good. It was phenomenal. That's not to say that it's going to stay on this trajectory, but I'm hopeful. I'm very optimistic now based on what I've seen. So it opens up with Picard on the Enterprise. I believe it was the Enterprise D, right? It looked like the Enterprise D. So before Generations. I think it was the Enterprise D. It's not the Enterprise E yet, but they are on it and they're in the lounge. What's the lounge called? 10 Forward or something like that. And they're playing cards. Him and Data are playing cards. And this was a wonderful moment. And it kind of felt a little haunting because there's nobody else in the bar. It was just him and it was just Data and they were playing cards. And it was this beautiful moment between the two of them where is a moment we saw in the trailer where he's like, Picard starts stalling and Data's like, you know, why are you stalling? And he says, I don't want the game to end. But it was a wonderful moment because Picard started talking about some of Data's tells. And some of his tells were the fact that he was trying to create false tales for Picard. So just a great moment. It really reminded me of The Next Generation. It had a haunting feel to it. Like it was clearly separate, but it reminded me very much of it. And it turned out to be a dream of Picard. So we pick up after the events that led Nero to Nero was the name of Eric Bana's character in Star Trek 2009, right? I think it was Nero. So it leads Nero to come to go back in time and chase Ambassador Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy, back in time. It picks up after those events. Romulus has been destroyed. And now Romulans are a race with no world. And Picard worked very hard to rescue them and get them new settlements. And at one point, there was a settlement of Romulans on Mars, and they end up getting attacked by a group of synthetics. So androids end up attacking Mars, destroying a bunch of the Romulans, and basically what it sounds like is the Federation just turned their back on it. They were like, oh well. And that was the big difference that Picard had that made him want to walk away from Starfleet. That was the fundamental camel that broke or straw that broke the camel's back that made him leave Starfleet. And we've seen him have these stands against Starfleet before. Remember Insurrection? Starfleet was not necessarily acting ethically in Insurrection, and Picard had to take a stand there. So some people aren't going to like the fact that Starfleet behaved in this way, but Starfleet has a history of behaving unethically. And it takes our heroes to step up and show them the folly of their ways. So now Picard is living in France, working a winery. He's got a couple Romulans living with him, helping him around the vineyard. And basically, he ends up communicating in the episode that he's not living; he's just waiting to die. And reminds me a lot of the Professor X character in Logan. He doesn't have any of the dementia. He doesn't have anything weird going on mentally. He's still a very mentally sound, strong person. But in a lot of ways, it reminded me of that character. So then we bring on this girl who gets attacked. Her boyfriend gets murdered. She gets attacked, and then she like activates, and she becomes like this martial arts expert. Which that's modern Star Trek. We've seen CBS All Access do stuff like this before. So she becomes this killing machine. She takes out these bad guys, but she sees visions of Picard in her head. And she decides that she needs to find him. And she knows who he is because Picard is a very famous person. So she's able to track him down. And then the show kind of becomes a bit of a mystery where Picard has to kind of sleuth a little bit and figure out exactly who she is, why these people are after her, what makes her different, what makes her be able to do some of the things she can do. And it actually leads him back to Starfleet archives, where we see he goes into his I think it's the Enterprise from his era vault, so to speak, that only he has access to. And we have a lot of nice little Easter eggs in that vault. But there he finds a painting that Data made, and it's a painting of her. Now, she is not, she's not somebody who would have been her age 30 years ago. And he said Data made this painting 30 years ago, and it looks exactly like her. And he learned that the title of the painting was Daughter. So now it's become clear that this is Data's daughter. And now all of a sudden, Picard has emotional ties to this person. He is emotionally invested, almost like a grandfather figure to this girl. And he wants to protect her and he wants to help her. Well, he's unable to do that. He's not able to do it. The bad guys attack, and we learn that they're Romulans. These are Romulans that are attacking her. Bad guys attack, and they actually end up killing her. And he feels broken. He feels like he's failed her. But he still has a mystery to get to the bottom of. Who is she? How is she Data's daughter? Is this even possible? And he contacts a android expert in Starfleet, and he learns that the technology to make her, the only person that could have possibly made her would have been Data. And they start connecting the dots on how this could have happened. And he feels like he's missed his opportunity to help his old friend. And we actually get to see a deconstructed B4 at one point. And she explains why when Data tried to upload his memory into B4, it didn't work because B4 wasn't nearly as advanced as Data. But then we learn that every android is made in pairs. Every android is made in twos. And that is why, you think about Data and Lore, right? Data and Lore, they were made in pairs. So now it's become apparent that Data's daughter has a twin out there somewhere. And now it has become Picard's mission to find this twin, to find Data's other daughter, and help her. So now Picard has purpose again, finding the daughter of his friend and helping her. Now, This is an extremely advanced android that we're talking about. They don't know that they're androids. They're basically androids made of flesh and blood. So that was a really interesting evolution into what an android is, because Data was not flesh and blood, but Data was always obsessed with becoming human. So it makes sense that Data would be learning how to take that next step in android evolution. So we kind of fast forward a little bit, maybe not fast forward, but let's take a step aside, and they show us where Data's daughter is, Data's other daughter. She is living with a group of Romulans on a refitted Borg cube. So this Borg cube is where these Romulans have settled. That's what it appears anyways. It looks like these Romulans have settled in this Borg cube that they've refitted to be their new home. Love it. There's so much Star Trek The Next Generation lore that they're mining here. And they're doing it in a way that it's not fan servicey. They're not saying, looky over here, here is this, and looky over here, remember this? Ooh, what about this? You remember this? No, it's more along the lines of like how Cobra Kai did it. These are our characters. This is their history. Let's take them in a new direction. And I love that. I love that so much. And they're building on the mythology that they've already created. They're building on the past that has already happened. Now listen, Star Trek Picard might end up being a horrible show. This first episode could be amazing, and now every episode from here on out could be garbage, which would make it a horrible show. One great episode does not make a good show. I don't think that's going to happen though, because this episode it just oozed with respect for the franchise. I understand a lot of people's criticisms on Star Trek Discovery. I do. Not everything in Star Trek Discovery oozes that same respect for Star Trek. They take a lot of liberties in Star Trek Discovery. There weren't any liberties taken here. This was respectful to the Next Generation lore. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And yeah, it was a perfect start to this series. And I can't wait to see where they go next. I'm foaming at the mouth to see what happens with Picard episode 2. So obviously, no need to give a grade here. I loved it. It was a solid A. And I mean, it was great. It was great. If you're a Star Trek Next Generation fan, I think you're going to have a lot that you're going to love in this. Just love. So let me know if you liked this episode in the comments down below. Let me know if you are a Next Generation fan and you loved it. If you're a Next Generation fan and you didn't like it, let me know that in the comments too. I'd love to hear your perspective on it and why you feel differently than I do. But guys, I loved it. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be reviewing every episode of Picard, and I just can't wait to see where it goes. So, and thank you so much for being here at the LQ Review, where we get to talk about every geeky, nerdy thing that we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you later.